Hey there! All over the world there are houses that used to be full of life, and now they stand silently, taken over by time and nature. From the Arctic wilderness to the jungle, here are 9 of the most amazing abandoned homes around the world. Each one has its own cool story hidden inside. Let's get started. In the very heart of the Georgian town of Tskaltubo, a residence was built during the golden age of the Soviet Union as a place for party elite and high-ranking officials to relax. The city of Tskaltubo was famous for its natural thermal springs, and sanatoriums and residences were built there with great flair. The building was adorned with marble stairs, fancy columns and huge ballrooms, which are now silent. After the Soviet Union fell apart, the residence was left empty, and along with it, the whole city lost its former glory. The inside still holds bits of its fancy past: chandeliers, mosaics and richly decorated ceilings, now covered in a layer of dust and cobwebs. The light coming through the broken windows creates a dreamlike feel, where the past mixes with the ruins. Today, the residence is a magnet for urban explorers and photographers from all over the world who want to see what a forgotten palace from the Soviet era looks like. What looks like a normal wooden cabin is actually a lonely time capsule. Far to the north, in one of the most isolated places on Earth, stands a lonely wooden house. It was built in the 1930s by Norwegian trappers who hunted polar bears and Arctic foxes. It was a shelter during the freezing winters when temperatures dropped below -30 degrees. After the resources ran out and hunting laws changed, it was abandoned, left to the wind and snow. The inside looks as if the people who lived there just left yesterday. There are mugs on the table and an old crossbow in the corner. The ice and frost have kept everything almost perfectly preserved for nearly 100 years. Today, in the quiet of the Arctic, this house is a silent witness to old journeys and life in one of the harshest places on Earth. On a small island called Polypal, in the middle of the Hudson River in New York State, stand the ruins that look like a medieval castle. This is Fort Bannerman, a private weapons storage facility from the early 20th century, created by the businessman Francis Bannerman VI. Bannerman bought extra military supplies from the US government and sold them to collectors and armies all over the world. To store thousands of tons of ammunition, he decided to build a huge fancy complex on a lonely island. In 1920, there was a huge explosion in one of the storage buildings, which destroyed part of the structure and killed several workers. After the owner passed away, the fort slowly fell apart, and more fires and strong winds made it crumble even faster. Today, the huge walls stand by the water like a movie set, drawing in tourists and photographers from all over the world. Because it's dangerous and might fall apart, you're not allowed to go inside, but from a boat or from the air, you can see all the beauty of this amazing place. In San Jose, California, stands one of the most unusual houses in United States history. This is the home of Sarah Winchester, the widow of the heir to the Winchester gun fortune, who believed she was haunted by the spirits of those killed by the guns. According to legend, a medium advised her to never stop building the house. Only then would she avoid the curse. For 38 years, she continuously expanded her estate, hiring crews to work day and night. The result is a labyrinth of over 160 rooms, 10,000 windows, 2,000 doors, and dozens of staircases leading nowhere. The house has doors that open directly into thin air, hallways that end in a wall, and windows that look into other rooms. After Sarah Winchester's death in 1922, work immediately stopped and the house was closed. To this day, the estate causes unease. Visitors claim to hear footsteps, whispers, and feel the presence of invisible residents. In the heart of Colombia, in the Antioquia region, lies a place that was once the private kingdom of the most famous drug lord in history, Pablo Escobar. Hacienda Nápoles was built in the 1970s and covered an area of over 20 square kilometers. On the estate, there were fancy villas, a private zoo with exotic animals, an airport, a horse racing track, and a huge swimming pool shaped like a hippopotamus. It was a place for lavish parties, business meetings, and a symbol of Escobar's complete power. After he died in 1993, the hacienda was looted, furniture and equipment were taken, and many buildings fell apart. For years, it stood empty, covered in grass and bushes, becoming a silent witness to the fall of a drug empire. Today, part of the area has been turned into a theme park and museum, but you can still find buildings where time stopped the moment their owner died. This place still brings up mixed feelings. For some, it's a cool tourist spot. For others, a painful reminder of Colombia's dark past. Deep in the thick, wet jungle of New Guinea, far from people, stands a strange, abandoned house built high up in a huge tree. It was built in the early 1900s when German missionaries decided to create a safe place to protect themselves from floods and wild animals. The wooden structure had several levels and was connected to the ground by narrow hanging bridges made of vines and planks. After World War II, the missionaries left this place and the jungle started to take back its land. Vines and roots grew into the walls and branches pushed through the windows, creating a strange picture of nature taking over something made by people. Inside, you can still find bits of furniture, tools, and everyday items, all covered in a layer of moisture and moss. Getting to the house requires many hours of walking through the forest, and many explorers say that just going inside the structure feels like traveling back in time. It's one of those places where people feel like they are just visitors in nature's kingdom. On the shore of Seneca Lake in New York State, there's a huge abandoned place known as the Willard Asylum for the chronic insane. It opened in 1869 as a mental hospital for patients who were thought to be incurable back then. This place was like its own little town. It had its own farm, workshops, a theater, and even a cemetery. Thousands of patients spent their whole lives here, and many never left the walls of Willard Asylum. After the hospital closed in 1995, hundreds of suitcases belonging to former patients were found in one of the buildings. They were still full of clothes, letters, and keepsakes. These suitcases became a symbol for the people whose stories were forgotten. Today, the hallways of Willard Asylum are empty. The windows are boarded up and the paint is peeling off the walls, making spooky patterns. This place is closed to visitors, but pictures from inside still give chills to anyone who sees them. In a faraway valley in the Pyrenees stands a truly unique building, known by the locals as the Knight's House. It was built in the 1970s by an eccentric artist who truly believed he was a medieval knight reborn. For many years he built his stone fortress all by himself using materials he found nearby, from old building parts to pieces of ruins. The building has towers, arrow slits, and fancy carvings showing characters from old King Arthur stories. After the owner passed away, no one wanted to live there. The place started to fall apart and nature slowly began to take over. Inside you can still find his artwork, stone carvings, handmade metal pieces, and journals full of drawings and poems. The house has become a place for travelers looking for a magical feeling and ideas for their own stories. Today, it looks like a piece of a fairy tale that just happened to land in the middle of the wild mountains. In far-off Siberia, in the heart of the frosty Magadan region, lies the abandoned mining town of Kadikchan. It was built during World War II by the hands of prisoners from Gulag labor camps. It had one mission: to dig up coal that powered Soviet industry during the war and the Cold War. At its peak, over 10,000 people lived here: miners, their families, teachers, and doctors. In winter, the temperature here dropped to -50 degrees, and the wind carried snow through the empty streets. In 1996, there was a tragic explosion in the mine which killed 6 miners. This event started the end of Kadikchan. The authorities closed the mine and residents were moved to other cities. Homes, schools, shops, and apartment buildings were left in a hurry with furniture and personal items still inside. Today, Kadikchan is a ghost town, a silent witness to an era that will not return. Abandoned playgrounds, rusty machines, and empty hallways create a scene like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. Even though we travel to some of the most amazing places in the world today, sometimes the real story is right next to us. Maybe on your street, there's an old closed-up house that no one has visited in years. The windows are dusty, the roof is covered in moss, and in the garden, wild bushes and trees that haven't been trimmed in a decade. Maybe you walk by it every day without even thinking about the stories those walls hold. Because abandoned places aren't just about faraway trips, there also are local quiet secrets waiting for someone to find them. And so, we end our journey through the most amazing abandoned houses and places in the world. Don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this video. And in the comments, tell us which of these places impressed you the most. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.